Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good evening, listeners. It's late on Thursday night here in suburban Chicago, and I'm walking home from the train. The next couple of weeks are going to be incredibly busy, so this might be the only episode of Pick Up and Deliver you get for 2 weeks. I am attending an academic conference for the next 3 days, then I have 1 day off, then I have a full day of classes, and I'm flying out to another academic conference, which I'll attend for the next 3 days, or before I return the week from today. So at least the next week is incredibly busy, and after that I'll be catching up with all the work that I missed going to the conferences, which is going to be very fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time, but it probably means I'm not going to be recording podcasts as much as I normally would. So it might be a little while before you get another episode from me. Apologies. But it is October 3rd. We're past the first of the month. And so as I like to do once we hit a new month, so I'm sharing with you the top of the stack. If somehow you've stumbled upon this podcast and it's your first episode, Top of the Stack is a monthly episode that I do, usually the first episode of any calendar month, in which I talk about games I played in the last month, games I plan to play in the next month. Just kind of generally do a what have you been playing episode. Join me, won't you? All right, so I always start top of the stack with a bit of a statistics rundown. So in September of 2024, my final monthly stats, I had 52 plays of 37 different games for a total of 657 plays of 241 different games. Now, as a reminder, that does include online plays on platforms like Board Game Arena and Yucata.de, which is where I play well over half of my games. So of those 600, well over 300 of them have been online. There are still plenty in person, but I do always want to make sure that's clear. My shelf of opportunity started the month at 70 games, and I reduced it to 68. So I played 2 more games off my shelf than I added, so that's good. My collection size also dropped from 605 to 603 games, so I did reduce that a little bit. My most played game in September was Frosthaven with 3 plays in person, and online PAX Pamir with 4 plays. So the top of the stack, the idea of the top of the stack, the metaphor, is the notion that I have a kind of magical accounting in my head of games I want to play. And the idea is there are 3 or 4 games, I pick 4 that are at the top of that stack of games I want to play. And if I play 3 of them in the month, I consider it a success. So last month, I did pick El Grande, 5 Points, The Gangs of New York, Antiquity Quest, and Switch and Signal as the games I would play. And I managed to play 3 of those 4. I did not play 5 Points, but I did play the others. So it was a good month in terms of getting games played. I haven't talked about those games on the podcast yet, and I probably won't for a while, but when I get to them, it'll be during a Board Game Espresso episode. Suffice to say, El Grande and Antiquity Quest were great, or El Grande was great, Antiquity Quest was good, Switch and Signal was fine. I probably won't keep it. First plays this month, I always like to track which games I've tried at new. I do count a game played on Board Game Arena as new, but I often won't think of it as a game I've really tried with much vigor until I've tried it a few times on Board Game Arena. It takes me a little while to grasp the game if I'm playing it there. That said, I have 65 new to me games that I played this month as of the beginning of the month. And by the end of the month, I'd played 74 games. So I tried 9 games this month. Those include Bark Avenue, Blocus Trigon, Casino Yahtzee, Rhino Hero Super Battle, Switch and Signal, Suburbia, Antiquity Quest, El Grande, and Tortuga 1667. I will say Tortuga 1667 I played on Board Game Arena, and I had a lot of trouble figuring out how it was supposed to work. I think it's meant to be a relatively fast-playing, kind of social deduction style game, and playing it asynchronous, I was not able to grasp what was going on very clearly. So that one was not too intense. I had no first expansion plays this month. I like to keep track of when I try a new expansion for something. I did not try any new expansions this month, so 14 going in, 14 coming out. Out of the Dust, an Out of the Dust play. A Dusty game is one that has, that it's been a year or more since you've played. The metaphor there is the game has been sitting on your shelf getting dusty. So if you brought it out of the dust, then that game would fit in there in that criteria. I did manage to play bring a couple games out of the dust. Streets, I played on Board Game Arena. This is a game that I used to have in person, but I got rid of, but I have played it a few times on Board Game Arena. It was fine to return to it. I can't say that I really liked it a lot. It isn't my favorite, obviously, since I got rid of it, but it is fine. There's an interesting element of kind of anticipating what your opponents are trying to do, and so I was doing that as I went along. I had a good time with it, and at least insofar as I would play it again if somebody asked me to, but probably not one I'll pick to play. So that's Streets. It was 1 year, 1 month, and 24 days dusty. Next up we have Azul, Stained Glass of Sintra. That was 4 years, 6 months, and 16 days dusty. I tried that game several years ago at a local game convention, one-day game convention, and we had a good time with it. It was a nice mix of different elements of the Azul formula. You still have the drafting method that's in the original Azul, but the way that you put tiles into your board differs dramatically. The points score in different ways, and you're trying to do things in different ways. It's got a different set of conventions to consider. When I played it before, I really didn't like it. This time I thought it was fine. Definitely not bad, and better than I remember it being. Mostly I was interested in having it because it's a nice game, and I thought probably if I played it again I would like it better than I did before, which turned out to be true. But I also have Azul and Azul Summer Pavilion, so having a third Azul game for our collection works out nicely. We don't have Azul Queen's Garden yet, but we may get that at some point. All the stuff I listened to though made it sound like an awful lot like Calico, and since we already have and enjoy Calico, I'm not sure why I need to get Azul Queen's Garden. But having all 4 Azuls has a kind of completeness to it that I do like. Next up on the dusty shelf was Dungeon Pets. This is another Board Game Arena play, but it had been 1 year, 8 months, and 12 days since I played it last. This is a game I really enjoy. You have these little monsters that you're trying to raise, and you are trying to keep them from being sad or going hungry or getting sick in their cage. You can allow them to poop as much as you want, and that's okay, as long as they don't get sick. So that's kind of funny, I think. That's Dungeon Pets. I enjoyed that one. I will say I was playing with 2 people who'd never played before, so I kind of clobbered them, which is fine. The people I played with clobber me regularly at almost every game we played, so I didn't mind winning one. And then finally I dusted off Favor of the Pharaoh. This was also 4 years, 6 months, and 29 days dusty. Slightly more dusty than Azul Stained Glass. Not dramatically so, but close enough. This is a really nice little dice game. It is a accumulating powers game. Each time you roll, you're going to get a little tile, and that tile gives you a bonus. So the next time you're playing, you have a bit more bonus to use. And the goal is to accelerate your scoring until you are scoring, I think you have to get 8 of a single die to trigger the end, or 7 of the single die to trigger the end of the game. And then everybody gets one more turn to try to get more than 7. So if you got 7, then they're going to try to get 8 or 9 of a single face. If they succeed, then they're going to win. Or if they get 7 but a higher number than you got, so if you got 7 3s and they get 7 5s, the 5s would win out. And it goes one more time around the table. So the first person gets 7, then everybody else is trying to get at least 7, or better yet, 8 or 9. And then it gets back to the person who triggered the end, and they get one more try if they're not in the lead anymore. And then the game's over, and whoever got the best round at the end wins. This is a Tom Lehman play. It's pretty simple, but really good. I like Favor of the Pharaoh a lot. I should play it more than once every 4 years. It's a good one. I do have a entry type called Notable Plays. Basically what this is meant to be is it's a game that I played that I wanted to make sure to mention here on the podcast, but I don't have any particular reason to mention it. It's not dusty, it's not new, it's not an expansion, that sort of thing. The Notable Play is Costa Rica. This is a game I play at least once a year. It hasn't gotten dusty, I don't think, since I've gotten it. It's a really light game, plays in about 20 minutes to half an hour. It's a little bit of push your luck and a little bit of set collection. It plays up to 6. And just generally, it's a pretty solid game. It's a Matt Dunstan, Brett Gilbert design from Mayfair before they went goodbye. It's got a little bit of Clemens Franz art, and just generally, it's a nice game. It also has I've also trimmed the box down Eric Martin style, so it's about half the size of what it used to be, and I kind of like that. So that is Costa Rica. Well, I haven't made a lot of progress on my 10 for 10, but there's not a lot of progress to be made. I played one game with Cute Animals, that's Rhino Hero Super Battle. That's it. That's the only game I added to the tableau this time. I do have a few more cute games to play in the next 3 months and a couple others to resolve, but I'm pretty close to getting the 10 for 10 done. So if I make a little effort, I think I can do it. Just pretty exciting. I don't think I've succeeded in one in a couple years. I don't recall if I succeeded last year or not. I don't think so. I don't think I got half last year. It's pretty bad. So that is the 10 for 10. I keep putting my painting goal on there. It's sort of just in honor of Topher Graves, or Chris Graves, Voodoo Child, but I haven't painted in a while. So I do want to get back to that, but who's got the time? On my Shelf of Opportunity, I did knock a few games off of there. I've already read that. My Shelf of Opportunity is currently at 68 games. The collection changed a little bit. At the beginning of the month, it was 606 total games in the collection. I immediately got rid of 4. And this was kind of a cheat. I didn't really do that much. I mean, I did get rid of Ingenious Challenges. I donated that to my board game club because it's fine, but it's really the kind of game that would go well with Reiner Knizia's Ingenious. So I just donated it to the club. And then I mentioned last month that I had gotten Smash Up, and I counted the 2 expansions that we got as separate games because that's the way they're listed in Board Game Geek, and it's more trouble than it's worth to not count them. But my son, who had asked me to hold on to Smash Up, I learned, had asked me to hold on to it so he could donate it to the high school board game club. So Smash Up is out of the house. It is part of the high school board game club now, and it is out of my collection, which meant I got to remove those 3 games from the collection. At the same time, I had a good month at Goodwill, meaning that I picked up Disney Villainous, Suburbia, or Pit, and Quarto. So I got 4 games at Goodwill, which kind of offsets the 4 games that I'd subtracted there. But then I did correct myself for 3 games. I had Dutch Blitz 2, and Mission Red Planet. These are all games that I'd moved to my college to have as part of the college board game club library, but that means they're not in my home collection. They should not be counted in the home club library. So I took those out of the home club library, and we're now down to 603, I think is the total where we are now. So all in all, a pretty good month. As I'm looking forward to next month and thinking about what I might want to play, again, I'm sort of looking at the collection, seeing which games that I have do I think I can get to the table this month, which ones am I going to actively work at. And I picked a couple that have both appeared on this list before, but I really want to try to get to them. That's Bora Bora, the Stefan Feld game, Circadian's First Light, a new game I picked up at Goodwill on October 1st called Linko, and a sort of one I've had for a long time and keep trying to get played but haven't ever managed it, and this is Android Infiltration. So those are the 4 games I've picked this month. It's gonna be a challenge to get 3 of those played, but I would like to try because they all look interesting, and why not? I have them in my collection. If I'm not gonna play them, I'd get them out of there. So that's the top of the stack for September, which leads me to ask, dear friend, what have you been playing? What new games did you try in September that you would like to share with your friends, the Pick Up and Deliver audience? The easiest way to do that is to head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share in the forums there. It's not super active, but when people post, there's often replies. That is the place I tend to post. I also do have a number of regular ongoing games with folks who listen to the podcast on Board Game Arena. If you would like to join, there is a Pick Up and Deliver group you'd be welcome to join, or you could just send me a message. Wombat929 is my username there. I'd be happy to play a game and maybe get a game going with several listeners. It would be fun to have something like a game of Welcome To, perhaps, to enjoy for ourselves there. Since I have an extra minute or 2 here at the end of the podcast, while I walk the last block to my house, it does make me have a question for the listening audience, which is just sort of like, I just had this with my students, which puts it in my head. How are things going for you here on the podcast? Are you still enjoying it? I guess if you're not, I won't know because you're not listening and you won't answer this question. But the sentiment still stands. Is the podcast still working for you? Which episodes are you enjoying the most? Maybe that's the question I want to know. Which episodes are you enjoying the most? Are there episodes I did in the past that you wish I would return to? Do you have ideas for themed episodes? Remember, anything I can tackle in 15 to 20 minutes is fair game. Anything that's longer, sometimes I'll break it into 2 or 3 episodes. I've done that before. I'm always looking for new topics to talk about because the Board Game Espresso, I really don't want to have it be more than every other or even every third episode is my preference for when that will happen, because I think that gives us enough time in between the different episodes to kind of let things breathe, think about what we've talked about. And also, I don't want the podcast to just be short reviews of games I've played. I also don't play enough new games to have that be the entire content. So if you have games you think if you have things you think I should talk about or you'd like to hear me talk about, I would love to hear you talk about that over on Board Game Geek in Guild 3269. You could also send me a message, Wombat929 on Board Game Geek or Board Game Arena. You could also email me, Brendan@Rattlebox Games, but frankly, that is the least reliable way to get a hold of me. I don't check that email as often as I should. So, well, thank you for joining me on my walk this evening. I hope that you have a pleasant day, and I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.